All right, a quick used car buying guide because many of you seem to be enjoying this, and not too many other journalists like to cover used cars for whatever reason, but I'm going to do it for you guys because now more than ever, I'm starting to understand where many of you are coming from with cars. A lot of you drive a lot of miles. I'm talking about 100+ miles per day, so you're putting on like 30, maybe even 50,000 miles every year, and this is normal for you guys. So every 2 to 3 years you're racking up 100k miles, and the fuel costs, the tire replacement costs, general repairs, maintenance, these things really add up, and many of you are driving cars outside of warranty periods or free maintenance periods and things like that the manufacturers typically offer on like new cars, right? And that's a completely different world from what I'm used to because I hardly drive at all. I only drive like 6,000, maybe 8,000 miles a year tops. So leasing has worked out phenomenally for me, but it's just not something that many of you can take advantage of. And unfortunately, with today's car market, it really sucks because used car prices are just through the roof. I mean, everything is through the roof right now. So I understand your pain, but I still maintain, I think two of the best used cars, the highest quality used cars that you can get, it's still going to be the Lexus ES and the Lexus RX. I know they are kind of boring options and you're probably tired of hearing that. However, they truly are the best aging and even excellent driving machines, I'm not gonna lie. And you can search this channel for yourself, over 400, almost 500 reviews, and many of them have been used cars. So I've tried out a lot of different luxury cars and different manufacturers that are used, and I just found myself liking the Lexus stuff the most. They just age the best. They're not quite as creaky and crunchy, and their leather, whether it's fake or not, I don't care. They kind of hold up the best. So all things considered, the ES and the RX are kind of my go-to choices. However, when I do a quick car guru search in a 200-mile radius in North Carolina, man, the prices are just nuts for a lot of these used cars for like a nice, clean, under 100,000 mile Lexus product, right? Like an ES or the RX that I just mentioned to you. And no, I do not recommend getting an LS used. I know that might seem like you're getting a lot of car for the money, but the repair cost, the maintenance on that thing, it's going to be far more than the two cars I just mentioned. And I even did videos on my own Project LS, which I have since sold because none of you seem to be interested in those videos anymore. They're not getting any views, and I just figured instead of just dumping money into this thing, just sell it and get rid of it while the market is still good on it, especially since nobody's watching any videos on it. However, that's fine. I can't really recommend that to most people anyway. You really need to have a higher budget set aside if you're going to own the LS. Of course, the LS is a far superior car to both the ES and the RX I just mentioned. However, most of you, if you're doing a lot of miles, you're on the grind, you know, you're not making a obscenely high income from your daily grind, then I can't really recommend you pouring all that money into a depreciating, rotting liability, because let's be honest, cars are not assets. They're liabilities. But however, there's another car I really like, and that's the GS. However, the problem with the GS is that's so overpriced in the car market, and it's pretty rare to find a GS as well. And keep in mind, the search I'm doing is North Carolina cars primarily, like the southern cars that aren't rotted out, rusted, or been in a flood. Okay, these are clean cars, no accidents, under 90,000 miles, because let's be honest, you're going to be picking these up and you're going to be doing a lot of miles on them. So I'm trying to get one that's under 100k with a relatively clean Carfax. Now, check the Carfax for yourself. Just because a car is located in North Carolina doesn't mean that it wasn't shipped from Florida or Chicago or New York or one of these other places. So do your due diligence there. And there is actually one unfortunate thing to keep in mind with like an early generation ES, and that's the crash test safety. It's really poor. That kind of 07 to 2012 ES ranks poorly. Same with the previous generation as well, unfortunately. Great driving cars, super quiet, super comfortable, but that generation, man, the crash tests, if you're putting a family in these vehicles, just keep that in mind. Crash tests, not that great. However, the RX that I recommended, that has always gotten good marks on crash tests, so that's a good thing. You can buy an older generation RX and still be in a safe vehicle. So that's kind of my ultimate recommendation for low maintenance, somewhat decent fuel economy, and some practicality as well. Good family car, right? Again, not the most exciting choice in the world. If you want to be interesting with me, I mean, I guess you can get things like the Acura TL. I love driving that. However, I've noticed there are kind of more little stupid things that go wrong with Honda Acura products I've noticed, just dumb little things. And there's the Infiniti G. However, it's just overall, when you look at a quality built machine, I have to give the credit to Lexus there. But yes, these cars I mentioned are more so on the cruiser side of things. They're not the most invigorating driving experiences. However, I don't think most people care about that when you're doing like 100 plus miles a day. You just want to be comfortable, not have a bad back at the end of your journey. So that's kind of what I'm taking into consideration here versus a sporty driving demeanor, okay? Now, one good thing is if you get like the 2013 and up ES cars, those have a much better crash test safety. So all the kind of 2013 and up Lexus cars with the kind of spindle grille on them, they rank much better for crash test safety. So something else to look into, but now you're talking about a 20K plus car for sure. Now you're most likely going to have to finance something like this. And if you're wondering about the IS, well, if you're talking about the early generation IS models like the 06 to 2012, something like that, they look great. I really like them, but the one problem with them is they don't drive quite as exciting as they look. They look kind of sporty, but they pretty much behave like a rear-wheel drive ES. So they're kind of floaty and just not the most exciting driving car, unfortunately. Again, you can probably maybe pick up like an F Sport variant of that generation, but again, that's going to be kind of rare to find. And I haven't personally tried that to know if that actually makes a difference in the way it drives. Fanboys and fangirls might say it does, but I can't really take their word for it. However, the next generation, like the 2014 and up IS, 350 with the F Sport package, excellent. But that's again like a $25,000 to almost $30,000, very expensive at that point. But yes, that's a great car. But that previous generation, hard for me to recommend. I'd rather just save the money, get the ES, get a slightly larger car. Again, like I mentioned, safety is of a concern, but to some of you, you might not care. I don't know. I think it's important. I just thought I would mention it. But yeah, those cars, they're going for around $17,000 with 80,000 miles on it. The RXs are like $19,000 with, again, close to 80,000 miles. And we're talking about like a 10-year-old car here at that point. 2010, 2011, 2012, those types of model years. So that's the unfortunate thing. Now, I'll kind of throw a curveball at you because, you know, if you want a cleaner example, you know, you're kind of getting into the $20,000, $25,000, $30,000 range. Again, you're still going to have like 50,000, 60,000 miles on them. So another method of buying cars that I personally like is just going onto Leasehackr, which is a website / forum. And there are these brokers on there, which they will sell you cars at a discount through a lease. And there's multiple different brokers to choose from, but AutoCompanion seems to be kind of the bigger ones that you can choose from. I think they're located in the Washington, D.C. area, and I think they do, in fact, ship nationwide, but you would have to pay for the shipping on it. But you can check out their website on Leasehackr on your own. They have these spreadsheets that you can check out. But let's just take, for example, here a 2022 Lexus ES hybrid. Okay, ES 300H. Sticker price of about $48,000. On their forum page, they quote about $489 a month, and they will in fact give you 5% off the MSRP price. So that's pretty much unheard of. AutoCompanion almost always offers some form of percentage off with the dealerships that they work with. So even if you don't want to lease the car, if you just want to straight out buy it, you can still get around 5% off, along with the other incentives that the manufacturer might offer. So seems kind of attractive. I've already done some calculations, and if we were to use this $48,000 ES300H, we can go onto the Leasehackr calculator and see what they're talking about. So that number they quoted involves 9 MSDs. So a lot of this leasing stuff is going to be a completely foreign language to most of you, and there's going to be a lot of research that you're going to have to do for all this to make sense. But I love cars, and I always look at the other options and the other ways that you can actually purchase these cars. And there's this common misconception that you have to turn the lease back into the dealership that you bought it from. That's completely false. Not with every manufacturer. Now, I will say leasing is changing, and some manufacturers, they're kind of charging you to buy out the lease or to trade it in or some of these things. So Lexus, from my knowledge, hasn't done anything like that yet. You can just take the car, lease it, and then a week later just trade it into CarMax if you want to, or put it up on Swap a Lease. There's so many different ways, and I'm not going to cover everything here, but let's just run the numbers on this ES300H. So multiple security deposits, they're saying that the monthly payment that they're quoting here for $490 a month is with a $4,500 refundable MSD. So you're going to get that money back at the end of the lease when you trade it in or when you turn it back in. Let's just put that to zero for now to keep things simple. So the monthly payment now becomes $541, and let's just add taxes here. That's 3% here in North Carolina, but let's just do 5% just because I don't know which state you're watching this from. And now the payment becomes effectively $616, and you could actually save some money by doing a one-pay lease. So instead of paying cash for a used car, you could technically pay cash for a lease car, but instead of paying $48,000, you instead paid $21,000. And you have now effectively paid off that lease portion, just the lease portion. But now your residual value is $26,000. So because it's a $48,000 car minus the $21,500 that you paid as a one-pay lease, you do save some money per month if you were to divide it up. So instead of paying like $600 a month, it's now like $541 if you want to divide it up that way for 39 months. So you got the $48,000 car for a 5% off discount for around 46 grand. You subtract the 21,000, you now have a residual value if you want to buy this car out at the end of the lease for 26,000. But instead of doing that, you can always just trade it in as of right now. And I checked the KBB book value, an ES300H base model with no options from 2019, which is about 3 years ago, and I put in around 60,000 miles in it. Okay, let's just say you went double the mileage. You can still get around $30,000. So that kind of puts you in like a $4,000 to $5,000 equity position at the end of the lease. So instead of paying $21,000 for the lease, you've essentially subtracted $4,000 to $6,000. So for around $16,000 to $17,000, you got to drive a brand new ES300H with all the latest safety and the gas mileage and everything. Even this method is 2 to 3 times more expensive than just buying a used car for the same period of 3 years, if you're not going to include maintenance, tires, repairs on a used car, which you're buying a Lexus for that reliability and low maintenance. So I'm just going to assume that you did no maintenance and no repairs in the course of 3 years on like a 2012 RX 350 or something like that, right? And the reason why this is still more expensive than just buying a used RX or used ES is because you still paid around $16,000 over the course of 3 years to drive this new ES. Whereas if you just bought a used ES for 16 grand and drove that for 3 years, you can still turn around and sell that for maybe around $10,000 or $12,000. So you've effectively only spent $4,000 to $6,000 in the course of 3 years, assuming you didn't do any maintenance or repairs to it. So owning a used raggedy car is still more cost effective, but if a transmission does happen to blow out or you do have some huge maintenance thing that comes up, then yeah, that kind of offsets it a little bit. But for me, I'm okay with allocating a slightly larger amount of money per month for a vehicle because I just happen to like cars. So the Leasehackr system is definitely the way I would go with the car. Again, for most of you, this is a completely foreign language, and there's so many questions you have and so many different things that you have to analyze and research and study with it. So I get that. But yes, Dave Ramsey is right. I mean, leasing is still fleecing. You are still spending more money, but I would rather spend more money and get that newer car than have an older one with tire replacement costs and all these other things, right? But I just wanted to shed some light on a different way of buying a car and a different way of car ownership from what people are traditionally used to hearing. You know, not too many people cover this in the automotive space, and I wish they would. But if you have any questions about any of this, just leave it down in the comment section. I'll try my best to answer them. I mean, it's getting very difficult here to answer a lot of these questions and DMs that keep coming through, but I'll try my best. But thanks again for watching this video. Take care and goodbye.